I still remember the weight of the envelope in my hand. It wasn't heavy, but it felt like it was dragging my entire body down, like just holding it made the air around me thicker, harder to breathe. I looked up at my mom, Carla. Her arms were crossed, that same tight smirk she always wore when she thought she was doing something clever. Behind her, Ryan, my brother, was already halfway down the driveway, revving the engine of his brand new BMW, his birthday gift. His second one, actually, since the first was apparently the wrong color. And me? Well, I was turning 18, the big milestone, the day you officially step into adulthood. I didn't expect balloons or cake or even a card. I've learned not to get my hopes up with my family, but some tiny part of me, some pathetic little spark deep inside, still wished for something. A kind word, a hug, a sign that maybe I mattered just a little. Instead, I got a one-way bus ticket. To Phoenix, my mom said, as if I'd just been handed a golden ticket to a dream life. You're legally an adult now. Time to make your own way. I stared at the slip of paper. The bus was scheduled to leave the next morning. No return, no note, just a ticket. My hands trembled as I clenched it, not from fear exactly, but from this sick, boiling mix of shame and disbelief. My heart pounded in my ears. It was hard to tell if I was going to cry or scream or both, but I didn't do either. I looked up again, slowly this time. Her expression hadn't changed, arms still crossed, lips still curled in that smug, dismissive way. She was actually proud of herself. Ryan walked past the front door again and caught my eye. He didn't even bother to hide his grin. "Don't look so surprised," he laughed. "At least you got something." I opened my mouth, closed it. What could I even say? That I had spent the last year working late nights online just to save a few $100? That I'd applied to community colleges in secret because I knew they wouldn't support me? That I had birthdays growing up where they forgot I even existed? Instead, I just nodded. I don't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe I just didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. "Thanks," I said quietly. My voice didn't shake. That was the only victory I had in that moment. Carla raised her eyebrows. "You should be grateful for this much." Grateful. That word sat in my chest like a stone. Was I supposed to be grateful for being pushed out like trash, left on the curb? I turned around and walked upstairs. My legs felt like they were moving on autopilot. My room, the same one I'd grown up in, suddenly looked smaller, colder. The posters on the wall felt childish. The bedding I picked out 2 years ago looked cheap. I sat down on the edge of the bed, ticket still in my hand. The silence was loud. The only sound was the ticking clock on my nightstand. Tick, 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 like it was counting down to the moment I'd disappear. I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. My mind was racing but numb at the same time. Was I angry? Hurt? Relieved? Maybe all of it. Or maybe just done. Because somewhere in that silence, something inside me snapped. Not in a violent way. It was like a thread finally broke loose. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to leave. And they'd never see me the same again. The next morning, I watched the sun rise through the cracked blinds in my room, if I could even still call it mine. The light painted stripes across the floor, golden and soft, completely at odds with how I felt inside. I hadn't slept. Not even a minute. My suitcase sat zipped by the door, packed hours earlier with just the essentials, some clothes, my sketchbook, and the journal I kept hidden behind my dresser. It was strange. How calm I felt. Like the grief had already burned itself out in the night and left only clarity behind. There was no dramatic goodbye. No, "I'll miss you." No one even came to check if I'd left. I walked down the stairs quietly. Carla sat at the kitchen island scrolling through her phone, sipping black coffee like it was just another Tuesday. She didn't even look up. "Bus leaves at 10, she muttered. "I know." Still, she didn't look at me. I guess eye contact would have made it too real. David, my father, wasn't even home. He'd left early for work, like he always did when things got uncomfortable. That was his thing. Disappear during the storm, reappear when it's sunny. I used to resent it, but now I just accepted it. And Ryan? He was outside, polishing his BMW in the driveway, the same car they had surprised him with 2 years earlier. Red leather seats, custom rims, The works. I remember how they all laughed that day, how Carla cried happy tears as she filmed him revving the engine. I don't think I've ever seen her cry for me. Not when I won awards in school. Not when I came home in tears after Ryan told his friends to make fun of me at lunch. Not even when I broke my wrist falling off my bike at 11 and walked myself to urgent care. Carla was always good at detaching. She called it tough love. I called it absence. Growing up in that house felt like being a ghost that hadn't died yet. I existed in the background, quiet, obedient, easy to ignore. Ryan was the center of everything. He was loud, charismatic, athletic. He didn't ask for permission, he just took space. And they let him, worshipped him even. And me? I made myself smaller. I got good at reading the room, at dodging Carla's moods and keeping secrets from Ryan. I got good at smiling when I felt like screaming, good at listening when no one asked me how I felt, good at pretending it didn't hurt when they forgot I was in the room. But I was never blind. I saw the way Carla looked at Ryan, like he was proof that she'd done something right, and the way she looked at me, like I was a problem she hadn't solved yet. Sometimes I'd wonder if I reminded her of something she hated about herself, or maybe I was just too quiet to matter. The truth is, I stopped needing their approval long before that birthday. I'd been saving money from freelance art jobs, stashing it in a hidden account. I'd applied for online classes. I even started networking with people through small gigs. I wasn't sitting around waiting to be saved. I knew that wasn't coming, but I still wanted something from them. Maybe not love, but acknowledgement that I existed, that I mattered, that I wasn't just a shadow in Ryan's spotlight. I didn't get it. Instead, I got a bus ticket and silence. So I left. Not with drama, not with a speech, just a deep breath and one last look at the house I used to call home. And when that bus pulled away from the curb, something in me whispered, "It's finally your turn." The Greyhound bus smelled like old leather and coffee. I sat by the window, hugging my backpack to my chest, pretending I was somewhere else. Someone else. The ticket was crumpled in my hoodie pocket, but I didn't need to look at it. Phoenix, a city I'd never seen, a future I wasn't sure I was ready for, but one I'd walk into with nothing left to lose. I didn't cry. Not on the bus, not when the city skyline came into view, not even when I stepped off with no one waiting on the other side. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. There's this ache that comes with realizing your family never wanted to know you. It's not sharp. It's dull and constant, like a bruise you forget about until someone bumps into it again. It flared every time I saw someone my age hugged by their parents or FaceTiming their moms. I'd scroll past happy family photos online and wonder what it was like to be chosen, to be kept. I rented a small room above a bakery. The owner, a kind woman named Ruth, barely asked questions when I paid up front for 2 weeks. I didn't have much, but I had enough, thanks to a few design gigs I'd landed online. Logo work, flyers, album covers. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept me afloat. And then there was Marianne. She had been one of my freelance clients, a tech founder based in Phoenix who liked my work ethic and said I had an old soul. When I emailed her explaining my situation, she responded within minutes. "Meet me," she wrote. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office, wear confidence." So I did. Marianne was everything Carla wasn't. Warm, direct, sharp. She didn't coddle me, but she saw me. Really saw me. Within a week, she had me working part-time on her startup's branding. She even assigned one of her drivers to pick me up for meetings until I could afford my own transportation. It felt unreal, like someone had finally opened a door I'd been knocking on my entire life. But just as I was starting to feel safe, they called. First it was Ryan. A text, of course. He never called. "Dinner Saturday, everyone's home, you should come. Mom said so." Mom said so, as if that still meant anything. I stared at the message for a long time. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from anger. Not because I needed them, but because I knew they still thought I needed them. What did they expect? That I'd come crawling back, wide-eyed and desperate to be let in again? That's when the idea hit me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to make a scene or scream or throw things. That wasn't me. But I did want them to see what they threw away, not as a plea, but as a mirror. I opened Marianne's contact and texted, "Do you think your driver could help me make an impression Saturday night?" Her reply came seconds later. "A limo or a statement piece?" I smiled for the first time in days. Both. The plan formed easily after that. I'd show up at dinner, dressed in confidence, stepping out of a car that didn't scream wealth, but independence, freedom, a message wrapped in luxury. They thought they sent me away with nothing. But I was about to walk back in like someone who had everything. Saturday crept up on me like a storm you can feel in your bones before the sky even changes. I could feel it in the way my stomach twisted as I opened my closet, scanning the few outfits I'd brought with me. None of them said what I needed them to say. So I went shopping. I didn't go to some flashy designer store. I didn't need labels to make a statement. I walked into a local boutique tucked between a flower shop and a bookstore. The owner was this older woman named Alma, who greeted me like I was her granddaughter coming home from college. I told her I needed something for a family dinner. She didn't ask questions. She just looked me over and said, "You want them to feel what they lost." Exactly that. We found a black fitted jumpsuit with a low open back, elegant, bold, but still simple. We paired it with small gold earrings and nude heels. I didn't want to look rich. I wanted to look untouchable. When I got back to my room, I laid it all out on the bed and just stared at it. It was strange, how clothes could hold meaning like that. This wasn't just fabric, it was armor. Saturday afternoon, Marianne's driver arrived in front of the bakery. The limo was sleek, dark gray with tinted windows, understated but undeniably commanding. Ruth peeked out from the bakery window and gave me a small nod. I waved, then climbed in, my heart pounding in my chest. The inside smelled like leather and something faintly floral. Soft music played through hidden speakers. I sat back, exhaled slowly, and whispered to myself, "You're not going there to prove anything. You're just reminding them who they lost." As the limo pulled into the neighborhood I grew up in, everything looked the same, but I didn't feel the same. I didn't shrink in my seat. I didn't rehearse lines in my head. I didn't wonder if they'd like what I wore. I didn't care. The house came into view, white siding, perfect hedges, Ryan's car still gleaming in the driveway like it had never moved. I asked the driver to give me 2 minutes before opening the door. I checked my reflection in the mirror one last time. My makeup was soft but precise. My eyes looked sharper, focused. My lips, painted deep red, curled into a small smile. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. I texted Ryan, "Be there in 5." He replied with a thumbs up. Of course he did. I imagined them all inside Carla, probably criticizing the dinner rolls, David pretending to read something on his phone, Ryan, still the son in the room. I wondered if they'd even cleared a spot at the table for me. Too late now. The limo pulled to a smooth stop. I heard the crunch of gravel under the tires. I could feel the shift in energy, like the air itself knew something important was about to happen. The driver stepped out, came around, and opened the door. I took one last breath, the kind that makes your spine straighten and your heart slow down. Then I stepped out, and for the first time in my life, they looked at me. Really looked. Their faces froze, Ryan's smirk fading, Carla's eyes narrowing, David's expression unreadable. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just stood there for a second, unbothered, unshaken, undeniable. And in that moment, I wasn't their daughter or the background character in their perfect family photo. I was the storm they didn't see coming. The front yard was dead quiet. Ryan was the first to speak. "Well, someone's trying hard tonight." His voice was light, sarcastic, his usual tone when he couldn't figure out what was going on. But there was something else behind it this time. Unease, confusion, like he couldn't decide if he should laugh or feel threatened. Carla stepped forward. She looked me up and down slowly, her arms crossing like armor, her lips pressed into that thin line I knew too well, her disapproval resting just beneath the surface. "You came in a limo?" she asked, tone sharp, almost mocking. "Where'd you get the money for that?" I smiled slightly. Not wide, not smug, just enough to let her know I heard the question but wasn't going to hand her an answer. Behind her, David lingered by the doorway, eyes flickering between all of us. He didn't say anything, just held that same distant look like he was watching someone else's drama unfold on TV. "I didn't come to impress you," I said finally. My voice was calm, even. "I came to show you what you let go." Ryan snorted, but no one laughed with him. Even he could feel it now. Something was different. We stood there for a moment, me in heels on their pristine driveway, them watching like I'd grown wings overnight. "Dinner's getting cold," Carla muttered, turning toward the door. "Well, if you're coming in, come in." I didn't move. I let her walk back inside without me. Ryan followed, mumbling something under his breath. David hesitated, then nodded at me, almost apologetically, before going in too. I stayed outside for a few more seconds, letting the silence wrap around me. I could have left right then, climbed back into that limo and disappeared again, but I didn't come all this way for an entrance. I wanted closure. So I walked in. The dining table was set like always, perfectly aligned plates, a bottle of wine Ryan definitely wasn't old enough to drink from, and a roast in the center that smelled too good to have been made by Carla. Probably store-bought. They all sat. No one said grace. No one asked me how I'd been. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. "So what? You're rich now?" I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, he looked small, still living here, still orbiting their approval like it was the sun, still smug, but hollow. "No," I said, "but I'm free, and I'm doing better without you." Carla scoffed. "Oh, please, don't act like we didn't give you anything." I tilted my head. "You're right. You gave me something really valuable." She blinked, confused. "What?" I leaned forward, elbows resting gently on the table. "A one-way bus ticket." And there it was. The silence hit hard, because in that moment she realized I hadn't come to beg or to boast. I came to draw a line, to show them with absolute clarity that I was no longer the invisible girl sitting quietly at the edge of the table. I wasn't the backup child or the family disappointment. I was done playing their game. I stood up slowly, brushing off my jumpsuit as if shaking off years of dust. "I don't need this dinner. I don't need this house. And I don't need your love." And then, softly, but with a strength that filled the entire room, I added, "I don't need you." The words hung there like smoke after a fire. No one spoke. Not Carla, not Ryan, not David. I walked to the door, heels clicking on their polished floor, and stepped back out into the night. The limo door opened without a word. I slid in, the city lights dancing outside the tinted glass as we pulled away. And just like that, I was gone. The ride back was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty. It feels earned. I leaned my head against the cool window, watching the streetlights blur into golden streaks as we moved through the city. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was running away from something. I wasn't trying to escape, to hide, or to prove anything. I was just at peace. I thought about that dinner, how none of them chased after me, how not a single person tried to stop me when I left. And it didn't hurt. That's what surprised me the most. There was no sting, no lump in my throat, just a kind of quiet confirmation that I'd made the right choice. They never saw me. Not really. And maybe they never would. But I finally understood. That was their loss, not mine. I had spent so many years shrinking myself just to fit into a mold they never even designed for me. I twisted myself to be easier, quieter, more likable. I tried to earn their love like it was something I had to qualify for. But love shouldn't be something you have to chase. It should meet you where you are. I used to think that ticket was the cruelest thing they ever gave me, but now, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That one-way bus ride was the beginning of my life. It forced me to start over, but on my own terms, to find out who I was without their shadows hanging over me, to discover how capable, how resilient, and how powerful I actually am. I don't live above the bakery anymore. A month after that dinner, I got promoted to creative lead at Marianne's startup. I used the money I'd saved to move into a small loft downtown, my own space, my own furniture, my own rules. I even framed the ticket they gave me, the original one to Phoenix, and hung it by my front door as a reminder of where it all started. Do I talk to my family? Not really. David sent a message a few weeks later, something short, vague. "Hope you're doing well." I didn't respond. Ryan tagged me in an Instagram story once, some passive-aggressive quote about family always coming back. I muted him. Carla? Nothing. And honestly, I prefer it that way. I don't hate them. That would mean I'm still giving them something. I've just let go. Let go of needing them to say sorry. Let go of waiting for closure from people who wouldn't recognize it if it stared them in the face. I gave myself the closure. I gave myself the life I deserve. And if you're watching this, wondering if you'll ever feel strong enough to leave behind the people who made you feel small, just know this: you already are. You don't need permission to become the person you were meant to be. You don't need their approval, their applause, or their acknowledgement. You need you. The bus ticket wasn't a punishment. It was my freedom slip. And the limo? That wasn't revenge. It was a full circle moment. A quiet declaration. Not, look at me now, but I see myself now. And that's all I ever really needed. So no, I didn't get the car. I got something better. I got away. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, like you were never enough or constantly compared or invisible, just know you're not alone. And your story doesn't end where theirs left off. Sometimes the greatest gift life gives us comes disguised as rejection. Sometimes the people who push us away are just making space for us to finally step into who we're meant to be. You owe no one your silence. You owe no one your pain. But you owe yourself the chance to start over. And if you're holding your own metaphorical ticket, whatever that looks like, just know it might be your way out, but it's also your way in, into freedom, into power, into peace. This isn't just my story. It could be yours too. And if it is, I hope you run with it.